This is the Comics Alternative Interviews, a conversation with Charles Soule and Ryan Browne. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative Interviews. I'm Derek.
And I'm Andy, and we're two guys with PhDs talking about comics.
And we have the pleasure of talking with Charles Soule and Ryan Browne. Their new series, Curse Words, has issue number 1 that will be coming out in mid-January. But before we get to that conversation, we want to let all of you know that this episode of the Comics Alternative Interviews is brought to you by the great folks at Discount Comic Book Service. Go to their website, dcbservice.com, for all of your comics pre-ordering needs. There, you're going to find all DC, Marvel, Image, and Dark Horse titles at 40% off of the cover price if you pre-order. For all of the other publishers, you'll find that those discounts are 20 to 35% off of the cover price. And every single month, you're going to find some unbelievable specials. Sometimes those specials could be as much as 45% off of the cover price. Sometimes as much as 50% off cover. But many times you can find discounts that are even more impressive than that.
That's right. And since we're talking to the creators of Curse Words, you can still order issue number 1 before the December 19th cutoff, but you can also at DCB Service get issue number 2 in this month's pre-order at 40% off, so that's $239, and you have your choice of cover A by Ryan Browne, which features Botchko the Hogtar, or cover B, which is by Chip Zdarsky. So you can check those out.
That's right. So it's a great way to get introduced to the new series, Curse Words. That's Discount Comic Book Service. Go to their website, dcbservice.com. They'll take care of all of your comics pre-ordering needs. And after you do get your copies of Curse Words there, please be sure to send them an email and tell them that the two guys with PhDs sent you.
That's right.
Well, Andy, this was a fun interview, and, you know, as I pointed out a little while ago, the first issue of Curse Words won't come out until January 18th, but we wanted to have both Charles and Ryan on the show before that because our listeners can still pre-order issue number 1, and I think they can do that until December 19th. And one of the things that's notable about the interview is toward the end, Ryan does go into quite a bit of detail about why it's so important, not only for them, but just comic creators in general, to get their titles pre-ordered, and why readers should do that, and why it helps the creators and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is as you said, this is a fun interview, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk to them about Curse Words, the first issue of which we've read and we both really liked.
That's right. Well, let's go ahead and let our listeners listen to that interview.
Yep.
We're pleased to have on the Comics Alternative Charles Soule and Ryan Browne. Their new series, Curse Words, is going to be coming out in January of next year, but the order date for this first issue is December 19th, and we wanted to have them on the show and talk about this new work so that our listeners can run out and pre-order Curse Words number 1. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having us on.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
It really is a pleasure. And you know, Curse Words, as you said, is our new book. It's coming out from Image Comics in January. We're both very excited about it. Ryan and I have worked together before on smaller things, but this is our first large project. Ryan, why don't you tell them, we have 3 substantial collaborations prior to Curse Words. Why don't you cue it up? Pick any one of them, and then I'll pick the next one.
Okay. Well, I feel like our Swamp Thing collab is best described by you. So for me, the one that's most near and dear to my heart is when I asked Charles if he would become the guest narrator of God Hates Astronauts, which for issue 7, there is a reoccurring photograph of Charles Soule that narrates the issue. And Charles wrote all the dialogue. It's the only part of God Hates Astronauts that I did not write. And it was super fun. And it got Charles a bunch of weird fans, which is awesome.
We now sign that issue. Let's see, how does it? My face is on the cover, right? So like a little tiny thing. So Ryan tends to put his name directly over my face. And so I write my name incredibly large across all of the credits on the book, but especially his name. So it's good. It's really good.
That's a great. What a good issue! What a good issue!
It's a good issue. So that was one of that was actually our third collaboration. Our second collaboration, which is the one that is very near and dear to my heart. I did enjoy my guest narrator gig on God Hates Astronauts very much. That was a series. That's actually the series that introduced me to Ryan in the first place. It had such a what is the age level of this podcast? Like how salty am I allowed to be?
As salty and as mature as you want.
Great. Okay. Well, the thing about God Hates Astronaut is that it is not mature, but it is super fucked up, and it is very, very funny. And when I read it, I just was like, this is a guy who has a sensibility that is like no one else, not just in comics, but possibly in the world. And so I kind of wanted to be friends with him, but also kind of didn't, because you know how it is. Like, you never know. People can be super weird sometimes when you see their work. But it all worked out. We had a great time hanging out many times since I bought his book or whatever. And then that led to, like I said, a number of collaborations. The second of which was on my Swamp Thing series for DC. There was a sequence in almost one of the very last issues of my run where Swamp Thing tells a story to cheer somebody up, and it's a story about when he was new to being Swamp Thing, and he kind of did something dumb, and you know, he's not always the stoic, perfect Avatar of the Green that you see depicted most of the time in the series, and the story was that when he was new to being this horrible heap of swamp goo, he was very sad and pining away for his human life. So he decides he's going to go to the movies and watch the latest installment of his favorite series. It's like Friday the 13th Part 19, basically, something like that. And so he's like, but how the heck do I go? Because I can't buy a ticket. I can't get onto Fandango.com as a swamp goo thing. So he's trying to think of how he could possibly do it. And what occurs to him is that inside a movie theater, there's so much plant matter, so much plant material. So he ends up growing himself up out of a single kernel of popcorn into the movie theater and becomes Popcorn Thing, which is about 2 or 3 feet tall. He looks like an ear of corn with popcorn coming off him. He's incredibly adorable. And in the little 2-page story, he's in the aisle. He's sort of like peering around the corner of a row, watching the movie, very happy. And then an old lady across the aisle sees him and screams. And so he runs up the aisle super fast, trying to get away, shedding popcorn kernels as he goes. And so that was Ryan's contribution to the Swamp Thing mythos. And I think he's right up there next to you name any of the greats, and he's right there next to him. Bernie Wrightson and Ryan Browne.
I think it's in that issue, or maybe it's in the cover to the hardcover. There's one place that another artist drew Popcorn Thing. And it really warms my heart because it's a very serious take on Popcorn Thing, and I love it. It's really funny to me.
Yeah, there was a on the cover of issue 40, we had this sort of marching army of Swamp Things, and like sort of Swamp Things from all different generations, all different places in time and space, and Popcorn Thing is loud and proud among them, fighting the good fight. So anyway, so that was our second collaboration. Our third one, which was actually our first one temporarily, was a brief story in Inhuman where Ryan got to draw Black Bolt screaming some Kree soldiers into non-existence.
Yeah.
Which was pretty fun. But so those were our public collaborations, but then we've also had some private collaborations. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Yeah, at least one joke strip that I drew and you dialogue. That was pretty solid. Remember that one?
I do. I remember it now. Yeah. I didn't come off. I featured as a character in that one. I did not come off.
You were in it. Yeah. If you guys can't tell, I like putting Charles in things.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be.
Not in real life, but like in comic form. It's this weird reoccurring thing that I do commissions at shows and people ask for drawings of Charles. And I have done 5 of them as paid commissions that people paid me to draw Charles, which is super weird.
Yeah, imagine it from my perspective, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Do any of them have Charles sketchbooks? Like, do they have sketchbooks that are entirely him?
Man. No, but I'm going to start one of those.
Okay, great. That's super great. I feel good about that. That's good.
All good news.
Yep. So we've really been having a good time talking and letting you guys listen to us talk so far. But I think the point that we're both trying to get at is that Ryan and I really have a good time making up things together, whether they're anything from little short, jokey crap that is still highly crafted and beautiful to something like this image series, Curse Words. And I think that, like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but it was obvious to me very early on that Ryan and I could do something really good. It just, we needed to our schedules needed to align. We needed to make it all work. And whether it was going to be good for everybody or just sort of really fun for us was going to be the question. But I guess we'll find out on January 18th, huh?
Yeah. I mean, Charles is a person that has the same dedication to constant work as I do, which you find in the comics industry. Sometimes it's hard to find. You get a lot of talented people, but someone that's talented and desperately just wants to be working above all else. So in that sense, we work together really, really well because a lot of people that work in comics are used to waiting for their collaborators to finish their part so that they can progress. And so far, it's been so seamless that when I need to work to do, it's there for me to do it. And so far it's been awesome.
Yeah, I think creatively it's definitely just been, it's hard to think of a better collaboration. I mean, I've been lucky to work with some really phenomenal artists and really professional artists and sort of, you name it, and Ryan is right up there with all of them. So to bring it back from the Love Fest, this book Curse Words we're really swinging for the fences on it. I mean, I think that it's my first new creator-owned thing in essentially 5 years since I launched Letter 44 for Oni Press. And it's my first work with Image for a long time, for like 7 years. The last thing I did with him was my book 27. So it's important to me as somebody who's been very associated with Marvel and to a lesser extent DC for quite a while to have a creator-owned project out that I think shows what I can do outside of the studio format, or however you want to say it, working on characters that Ryan and I have created and own and can do whatever we want with. So have you guys, I don't know, Ryan, did you get them the issue? Have you guys read Curse Words 1? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We've read the first issue. Okay, so you guys are telling us about, working together in the past, but where did the genesis... What's the genesis of this particular project? I mean, who came up with the idea? I mean, were you guys, on the phone drunk one night and you just started talking about this? I mean, how did Curse Words come about?
Ryan?
Yeah, I can go. I thought you could go because your name starts with C and comes first.
Yeah.
But
your last name starts with B, which is before S. So.
Damn it. You got me.
That's lawyering. I just lawyered you like nobody's business.
This book really, it's actually the second pitch that Charles and I put together. We worked on another one that didn't find a home because it ended up being kind of similar to stuff that we didn't know was already in production at Image. So when we set out for this particular one, the first one was kind of a high concept that Charles had that he brought to me. And then when we worked on this one, we started with the basic outline of what if there's just an asshole wizard. Is a wizard.
That was it. That was my line. I've got this thing about a wizard who's kind of a dick. That was it.
and from there, it was, it was a lot of back and forth to figure out what did I want to draw, and then how could Charles put that together into a story. And so it's been a constant back and forth process where, we want to do a story about a wizard that's a dick, and then we started talking about all the different things you could do with magic that are so fun, so that we could have really, really strong, crazy visuals in the book. And we started talking about Fletcher Hanks comics where the way that magic is used or superpowers are used is a really bizarre way of solving problems with magic. And so that we use that as kind of a start for building a story. And then I think I designed Wizard, our main character, and tried to give him like a modern look thing. And then that look that I designed for him, gave Charles other ideas about where it's setting. And we basically, it's a lot of going back and forth to kind of feel our way to what is pretty much the perfect project for both of us. So that we're both like right in our wheelhouse. There's tons of strong character stuff, but then there's also a lot of like crazy visuals that I get to draw. So it's kind of, it wasn't really much of a come up with the elevator pitch. It was, let's organically figure out what would be the most fun for us to collaborate on, the most effortless, with the thought process and the imagination. And then we just, kind of locked it all together and figured out what the book was from there.
Yeah, I mean, to give you a sense of how sort of smooth this book runs, at least for me, I wrote this morning, I was working on an issue and I wrote 14 pages in 2 hours. Like it really, really flows in a way that is it's just fun. It's just really, really fun. And I think that when the readers get their hands on it, all millions of them, I think that fun's going to translate into the experience. I mean, let me give you guys for the listeners, you've read it, but let me sort of explain what it's about. We have New York City, which is a city that many people have heard of. One day, a wizard pops up in New York City and says, "Hey, everybody, I'm a sweet wizard. I'm the best wizard. I'm going to do magic for you. You're going to have to pay me some money, but there's magic, so let's do it." And everybody gets very excited because that's kind of an interesting thing. We've never had magic before, and it's a fun opportunity. And so he gets super famous and super rich, and everything's great. This guy's name is Wizard. He has a pet koala who can talk named Margaret, who is sort of his partner and familiar. And they're doing some awesome things. And it's really, the world starts to shift, and he's a hero, basically. But the twist of the book is that he is actually not a hero at all. He is he comes from this other dimension called the Whole World, HOLE world, which is a very, very evil place. It's like Lord of the Rings, but if Sauron had won, or Voldemort won in Harry Potter, and it's that kind of place. So filthy and slavery and awful and bad. And so Wizard gets here. He was sent here by that guy to destroy the world, and he gets here, and he's like, "Man, this place is all right. There's Netflix, there's lovely ladies in tiny dresses, there's nice cocktails, there's all kinds of fun things." And so when the time comes to cast a spell to destroy the world, he decides he's not going to do it, and instead he does what I described at the beginning, and he comes out to the world and says, "I'm a good wizard. I'm going to help you guys out." But he is in fact, this evil, super evil wizard. And his past kind of starts to catch up with him, and we see kind of really bad things start to happen in the world just because Wizard is here. And so the book is kind of a spiral of whether or not you can leave your past behind, and whether or not Wizard is actually gonna, just because you say you're good doesn't mean you are good. And it's how committed he's gonna be to actually being, not just a good wizard, but like a good person, and whether he even can, whether it's even like, can you walk away from some of the terrible things you've done, which I think is something that we can all hopefully relate to. So that's the book.
So one of the questions I had coming out of that, have you worked out some of like the rules or mechanics of magic that are going to exist in your world? Like, for example, we see Wizard do something with sapphires.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So are there other things like other rules that you're kind of using to limit things or to follow as the series goes along?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that, again, like the idea of using magic in the ways that he can use magic to basically do whatever he wants creates a lot of fun, but it also, you have to figure out, we had to early on figure out a way that he couldn't just do anything that he wanted and just get rid of all conflict as it came to him. So we kind of, I think it started with, I like the idea of, so there's 9 evil wizards, and the idea that they all draw their powers from a different stone, different gemstone, and so they all have their own color scheme. So it's kind of like Green Lantern in that sense, in that their power and their color scheme and the feel of them is kind of dictated by the gemstone that they come from. So Wizard uses sapphires. So
Cornwall, the wizard that you see in issue 1, he gains his power from rose quartz. So yeah. They're not all like kick-ass stones. Some of them are.
Yeah. I'm most excited about chocolate diamonds.
Yeah.
That's by far my favorite.
There's a character you actually meet. You meet the character who's powered by chocolate diamonds in the book. He's the Hogtor Botchko. Yeah. His power source is chocolate diamonds, and believe it or not, this is going to sound ridiculous, but there is a very interesting story-based reason why he would gain power from chocolate diamonds, and why chocolate diamonds would even exist in the whole world, which is the place where he's from, and why rose quartz would be there, and where all these things come from. It's all like I would say it is quite well planned out. There are some seriously cool story beats that we already know pretty far out, but which are also bizarre. Like the one there's a very strong undercurrent of weirdness in this series, which is absolutely, intentional from both of us, and a lot of the big huge revelation beats are really odd. I have to when you sit back and think about the story we're actually telling, which is really just hinted at in this first issue, it's really weird, right?
Yeah, it is. It is really weird, but I don't think in an off-putting way.
Nope.
Hopefully, just weird as in there's a lot of things that I didn't see coming, and a lot of different visuals that I'd never really put together, and so hopefully it's very unique.
Yeah, I think one of the things that that appealed to us about doing a book about magic is that you can do things, you can do twists and turns in the storytelling that are literally unpredictable. Because with magic, you can sort of do anything you want. And so our goal, or my goal as the writer, is to make sure that you really don't have any idea what's going to happen next, or how it's going to go, or where it's going to turn. So, which I think makes it fun for Ryan as he reads scripts. And I think it's going to be really fun for readers. I don't know if you guys, when you read the first issue, did you have any sense, was it oh, I know what's going to happen, this is the kind of story I'm familiar with, or was it or was it not like that? Was it you just had no idea what the hell was going to happen?
Yeah, for me, it's more the latter. Although I have to say, when I opened up or looked at the first page of Curse Words #1, I had in my mind Ryan Browne, particularly God Hates Astronauts. But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, but Charles Soule is the writer here, so how weird and wacky is this going to get? And it gets weird and wacky. So I had certain expectations, and they were met to a point, but I couldn't anticipate what was going to unfold, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right, Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah.
I interrupted you.
No.
Oh no, it's fine. It seems to be a pretty perfect blend of our sensibilities, because I of course love drawing animals and drawing absurd stuff, but usually I don't really have much of a point to any of it. It's just entertaining myself, and so Charles does things with a plan and with reason. So I think the mix of that, and also most of what Charles writes tends to be pretty serious, but in actuality, he's a very funny guy. So I'm excited for people to see more of the humor side of Charles, because his humor is driving a lot of what happens in this book, and it's definitely not even close to being all my jokes. So,
I think to kind of echo what Derek said, when I opened up the first page and you see a koala, a horse in the background, and then some sound effects, it does feel like a Ryan Browne book right off the bat.
Yeah, but the koala is actually, I think, one of the best collaborative moments of the book for us, because I just drew a koala when I was drawing Wizard because I wanted to draw an animal, and a koala is an animal I never really drawn before. And then I thought, well, what if that's a familiar? And then I think it took a little bit of convincing to Charles that I would do this selfish thing by just drawing a random animal in, that he'd have to figure out what the point of the animal was. But now that animal, the koala's name is Margaret, right. And she's one of the most important, if not the most important, characters to Wizard. Right. And she drives so much of the story. And as you see, when she comes to New York City, originally she's a rat. And she's been in New York City for 5 years, and she was kind of scouting out New York City for the coming of Wizard, so she could help him through, building his device so that he could destroy our world. So Margaret ends up being this communicator, but like a translator between Wizard and our world, so that he can understand the way things work here. And she, is a pretty important sounding board for some of Wizard's ideas, and brings up a lot of makes Wizard more introspective and consider the consequences of the things he does, because she's hanging out with him, talking with him about it.
And then she becomes also a pretty popular figure within his celebrity, right? There's the hashtag Team Margaret.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely. That's there's a lot of nods to the way that we hope and think that the book might be received in the world. Like I just put, there's an email address for fan mail, which is Wizard. So Wizord, that's the character's name. Wizard@wizard.horse.
Yeah. What the hell's the thing with the .horse?
It's a URL. At some point, they opened up a couple hundred different URLs that you can get, such as a .horse, or like .luxury, or .gold, .dog, .cat. You can get all that stuff now, and unfortunately, I don't think it's really caught on at all. So most people don't know about it. So while we thought buying a .horse was really funny, every time we have to advertise it, we have to say, yes, a .horse is a real URL.
Was it the Hello from the Magic Tavern podcast? Their email is puppies.supplies.
That's great. See, there's they have so many jokes to be had.
They have to explain on every episode that it is a real email address.
Sure, yeah.
And in fact,
forward thinkers.
I did pull up wizard.horse, and I see the beginnings of your site. Yeah. With the wizard beards.
Yeah, we kind of forgot about it. but that was Wizard.horse was originally the book was just going to be called Wizard, and Image had the wonderful foresight to say that might be a little bit of a confusing title. So Charles came up with Curse Words instead, which is probably a much better title. But yeah, so there is stuff up at Wizard.horse.
Well, in terms of the collaborative, I was going to ask, in terms of the collaborative process, I guess, Charles, you're doing the writing, and then Ryan the art. But is there a little more, I guess, leakage between those boundaries of collaboration?
Leakage. That's a great word. Yes, lots of leakage. I would say, well, the thing is that's funny and probably will surprise many people is that Ryan actually writes it and I draw it.
God, I wish.
It's very surprising to everybody. But no, I would say that it's very, 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 very back and forth. It's not like I write a script and then Ryan draws it and we never talk again until we're on a podcast or something like that. It's more like I write a script. I mean, like this morning is a good example. Like I knew there's a very important scene to the overall mythology of the book, and I knew basically what I wanted to do, but I wanted to make sure because it's kind of a choice to go sort of intimate or internal rather than go big and epic. And I just kind of wanted to run it by Ryan since he knows these characters fairly well as well. So we talked about it, and then that's the scene I ended up putting in the book. But if, on other books like, Daredevil or something that I read for Marvel, I'm kind of relying on my own guidance for that. And then from the same side, Ryan will do his layouts and his art, and we'll talk about them. And I'm not going to ask for a redraw of the whole page, or at least I haven't yet. Who knows, Ryan, maybe. But I will, there's there's a couple of spots in issue 1 where I really, even after, I hated to do it, but like there was a point where I was like, man, I had this idea and it'd be amazing. And what if we did this? And I think that the issue 1 you see is really the product of a lot of back and forth, a lot of revisions, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that first issue we spent a lot of time on, a lot of revisions. I've got several pages that were cut out, many different panels that were redrawn, some because I realized they didn't work, some because Charles thought we could do it in a different way. I mean, we just wanted to get it perfect, so I was totally fine with reworking whatever we needed to rework to get that first issue perfect.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, first issues they're so crucial. You have to make sure that you can't. I mean, creator-owned, I think there's so much. It's not. I would say 3 or 4 years ago, creator-owned was still kind of like an area where it was the field did not feel saturated. When a really beautifully produced, on all levels, art, writing, everything like that, design, creator-owned comic came out, people really noticed it in a way that they hadn't before because there wasn't anything really like it. And sure, there were some creator-owned hits, but this was the era of like some really, all the series that now that are talked about on all the awards lists, they were kind of debuting. So your Saga and your Wicked and Divine and books like that, Letter 44, things like that. And so, but now it's seen as an avenue for really high-level storytelling, both by creators and by readers, and so the field is just more crowded, which is great from a reader perspective. From a creator perspective, who's trying to get your project to stand out, it just means you've got to make sure that what you're doing is absolutely A+ level on every level, and even then, you never know. Like there's so many things that go into whether or not a project becomes a hit or becomes popular, but. We're certainly not leaving any craft on the table as far as Curse Words goes, and issue 1 is it takes everything I've learned in all my years of doing all of the other books I've done, and I think Ryan's the same. We're not leaving anything on the table with it.
One of the things we talk a lot about on this podcast is first issues and how first issues can function as kind of like the pilot episode that's got to get you hooked on it. And that's one of the things I was really impressed with the first issue of Curse Words was that I really want to see the second issue after reading this first issue. There's, kind of multiple cliffhangers pretty much at the end that that make it so that I don't want to go wait for the trade for this book to come out. I want to see issue 2 the next, as soon as possible.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, obviously that's the sign of a good first issue.
Right.
And obviously what we're shooting for. It is really interesting because a lot of huge stuff happens in that first issue. And a lot of it can be kind of shocking and exciting, but none of it is done for a cheap thrill. We know where all that stuff is going. We know what that is setting up. And it's great to be able to tell a story in that first issue that gets those points to really, hopefully engage people and want them to see what keeps happening. And the other 2 issues that we have finished, 2 and 3, also have pretty huge moments at the end, which happen very naturally and aren't forced for sure. And so hopefully it will really get people excited for that next month's issue.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and I appreciate the fact that, I guess a couple things. One, that as you mentioned, Ryan, there is a lot packed into this first issue. And we should mention to our listeners that this is an oversized first issue, right? So this is like, about 35 pages of story, 34 pages of story, something
36.
Like 36 pages of a really, really good story. So there's a lot there, but also you're aware that there's a lot packed in, and you've left a number of cliffhangers because on the very last page we do get this, and then what happened, and you list a series of questions that are the questions that we have as readers. So, you're playing around with those expectations, but in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was. I'm trying to write this. Like I wrote that end note that you're talking about, with the, the understanding of this is a book that is existing within a comic book ecosystem where most readers are going to have read a lot of other comics in the past, and so I want them to feel like they're in good hands. Like there is a plan, that we're not just throwing random stuff against the wall. That this is a story that if you get on board with the ride, it's going to be very satisfying. You're going to get a lot of awesome reveals, a lot of great stuff. That the experience you're having here is not the end of it. Like there's a lot of fun stuff to happen if you get each chapter every month. You'll have a blast. And now it's just about how it's received. We've been really gratified with the early response. We've gotten some incredible reviews from like some really significant outlets and creators. And it's been nice because we both have a lot of friends who have very high profiles in the comic book world, and the way that they, so you send it to them, will you give it a quote, tweet about it, whatever. But the way that they've talked about it has been very, it's felt very sort of genuine and gratifying. Not like they're doing us a favor, of course, but it's also they like it, which is, I don't know. Have you felt that way, Ryan?
Yeah, that's really nice. Especially with humor, I feel like, and this isn't just a straight comedy book, but you spend so long with it inside your own head, and even working with Charles and us being able to sound off on what each other is bringing or adding to the book, you never really know how much sense it makes to the outside world or how well it's going to hit, because with this, we've been working on Curse Words for over a year. We first started talking about it at Baltimore Comic-Con last October. So it'll be over a year in production before it actually people get to read it. And you never get a sense because we're so ingrained in the lore and we understand who the characters are and the rules and where the story's going to go, that it's kind of frightening, that first issue, to see people read it and you just kind of hold your breath and you make sure, like, you just hope that they understand everything and they don't point out something obvious that you've done wrong that we just didn't see because we were too close to it. And so far so good, which has been like, a big, big, deep breath in, and it's very reassuring that people are digging it so far.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that... Oh, go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just following up because of when you asked Derek about that, and then what happened section is, and you have your email address, so are you going to be doing a letter page?
Yeah, we have a lot of very cool fan engagement plans, and they range from sort of stuff you've seen before, letters column, which I think is always such a good idea, to contests, to stuff you've seen, but we really want to try and make the experience of being a fan of curse words as fun as reading the book itself. So, for example, next summer, the first collection, Volume 1, is due out around July. And so Ryan and I are going to acquire a van from...
Legally.
Acquire a van, and we're going to have it painted like 1970s wizard style, like fantasy art, like you can, like a wizard van, right? And then we're going to drive that van around the country, and we're going to do signings at stores and have wizard parties. And we'll do like a custom hardcover. We're going to make it like a rock tour. Like, so the back of the T-shirt will have like all the shops we're hitting and all the cities. And it's the kind of thing that, we'll go pose in front of the biggest ball of twine and just like things like that. And it's going the extra mile to make sure that if you read it, if you read the book, if you buy the book, if you spend your $3.99 every month, that you'll get more than $3.99's worth of entertainment and value. You'll get the jokes, you'll get what we're doing. We're trying to really, we know what it's like to read comics, we know what it's like to be fans of comics, and we want to give people a lot because we know that it's a big ask to have them jump into a creator-owned book, whether they like our non, or for hire work or whatever. Like it's always a big ask to ask someone to commit to your series, and so we want to make sure that people are getting a lot in return for that investment, and it's going to be fun for us too, especially driving around the country in a van with Ryan Browne for 3 weeks, right, Ryan?
Hooray! Yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. I can wait, but when I'm in the moment, it's going to be great.
Well, are you going to document that van tour and then include, journals or selections from your trip in future issues of the comic?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get GoPros and kind of videotape it as we go. Actually, I don't think I told you this, Ryan, but I have a good friend who is he's like a serious kind of documentary filmmaker guy. And I was like, what would it, would this work if we did it? And he's like, well, yes and no. Like it's some, whatever. The point is, I think we're going to have some GoPros on our heads and we're going to talk to each other. And it's going to be something that at some point we'll just edit together and put out on YouTube or wherever we put it out. But certainly, like I was thinking we would do things like, if you see the van on the highway, take a picture of it and tweet it to us and you win a prize. Like stuff like that. Like we're going to be, the tour itself is going to be an event beyond just the book,
So where are you two located in the same area to do
We're
this?
both in America.
Yeah.
I've been living in Charles's closet. He just doesn't know it. Please don't tell him. No, I'm in Chicago and he's in New York.
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn. I've been here for a while.
Well, if you come down Interstate 95, my house is exactly halfway between New York and Chicago, or excuse me, New York and Miami. So, if you're heading for Miami,
we're doing that. I mean, we're the current plan, which will probably, like Ryan, I was just looking at. We sent out our big van tour email to a lot of shops earlier this week, and so I've been looking at all the responses, and we have a lot of great stores that I can't wait to get in touch with and sort of work out the details. But there's not an easy route. It's like you're in Maine, and then you're in Portland, Oregon, and then you're in Phoenix, and then you're in Chicago. So we're gonna have to figure that out a little bit, but we'll make it all work. But certainly the tentative plan is to start on the West Coast, drive through the South, kind of hit, start on the West Coast, drive along the South, and then up the East Coast, and then loop back around into the Midwest. So I-95 and that side of the country is, we'll be at your house is what I'm saying. We'll be at your house.
Yeah, well, swing by the Dallas area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We will find out.
A lot of shops in the DFW area.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get to see the country. It's going to be great.
I'm really excited about that part. Like, since I've been young, which I still am right now, I've always wanted to do a cross-country drive with a friend, and
but instead you have Ryan.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm going to do it with Ryan. So so that'll be cool.
And our van is going to be stuffed to the brink with actual koalas, which is something I haven't told Charles yet, but I know I got a koala guy.
Living koalas?
Yeah, and I think we're just going to leave one at every store we do a signing, and it then becomes their problem because koalas are not very nice. I don't know if you know this, and most comics are printed on eucalyptus paper, so the koalas will destroy their entire all their product. Sorry.
They are good eating.
Yes, yes, they are.
But whatever. All joking aside, none of that was a joke. We are absolutely bringing live koalas to every store. But
man, what a promotional thing that would be.
Here, have a koala. But what we really wanted to do is to make sure that this was something that would have a life outside just the book itself. That we both remember and have a lot of fondness for not just comics that we've read growing up, but like sort of the things around comics, like weird stuff like, no prizes or, I don't know, giveaways and just like the kind of the trappings of comics. And we wanted to make Curse Words something that would have a lot of that stuff. So the van tour is only part of it. There's going to be a bunch of other things, but yeah.
So you say that you've already gotten a good bit of the story mapped out. So do you have a sense of, like, I don't know, around how many issues of this you guys would ideally want, or maybe not in terms of issue numbers, but do you have, I don't know, a complete storyline or a tentative storyline for the kind of series that you would ideally like to end with?
I think shooting for 5 trades is a really satisfying number to me. It might be more than that. We don't know, but that to me would be really, really satisfying to have that be a pretty serious body of work and a really complex. Because right now the things that we have set up is there's a lot. There is a lot to explore. There's a lot that's going on between New York City and between the whole world where Wizard comes from. So we really are crafting actually 2 worlds, and we've set up a pretty good set of rules for the magic and the way things are going to work and the motivations for some of these scary wizards and. So yeah, I mean it's a sizable story for sure.
Well, one of the reasons why I asked, because one of the things we've noticed, unfortunately, with a lot of very ambitious comics, and especially a number of them coming from Image, is that the numbers or the sales just may not be there, and then creators have to end up truncating their stories. Mm-hmm. And I know that, Ryan, you've talked with us on the show before at Heroes Con about the unfortunate ending sooner rather than later of God Hates Astronauts, and so I'm curious what kind of contingency plan you guys may have, or if you're really banking on the fact that this is going to go for at least 5 trades.
Well, I have. Yeah, I've sold pretty much everything. I mean, I'm sitting in a room that is empty now. I have a phone and a wall outlet in it, and that's because that's how confident I am that this book is going to go the distance. I think it's going to be great. I think we're going to get really rich from it, and it's going to be phenomenal. And that's it.
Well, good.
Any thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident that we're going to tell the story we want to tell, and not have it be cut short or altered because of sales. Hopefully, you never know, but yeah, I feel pretty confident that, especially once people start reading it, then it's going to spread and get a sizable audience and be here for as long as it wants to be here.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think you can't. I mean, you can write a story that is designed for a 4 to 6 issue thing, essentially kind of a movie length sort of concept, but that's not what we wanted to do. I think that Ryan and I are having so much fun on this book that if, I would love to work on Curse Words for 2 years with him, and it would just sort of be like one. If it continues as it has been, I feel like it would be one of the most satisfying creative projects that I've had in my career. So, I certainly hope readers find it. I think that it's very it's really fun. It's fun comics. It's not the kind of thing where you come in and you've got to figure out what the hell's going on, or deal with the fact that you're looking at a world that's been destroyed and you've got to kind of it's not dystopic. It's strange, but it's ultimately it's entertaining in a very real way. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people will find it. I really do. I think there's going to be great word of mouth. And Image has been doing some amazing things, getting the word out. You guys have been kind enough to have us on to get the word out. And I don't go into these things with a pessimistic viewpoint. And I think the work is as strong as Ryan and I have ever done. I'm confident in our skills, and then it's really just about how the readership responds.
Word.
do you also, in addition to this driving tour, do you plan on doing cons together and having something kind of special to cons for this book?
Yeah, I mean, we're already sort of talking about what kind of merchandise we can do. I'm a big fan of merchandise. I'm a big fan of limited run things that you can only get from us. I don't know if you saw, but like with God Hates Astronauts, I did an issue -1 that you could only get from me. And it was all the artwork from issue 1, just completely rescripted to be a new comic about something completely different. And, that's probably not what we're going to do with Curse Words, but I'm betting we'll come up with fun things like that are going to be specific to things that you can get from us at shows. Currently, we have the Curse Words preview ash can, which is a black and white, the first 20 pages in black and white of issue 1 that we had printed for the retailer summit in Baltimore. And the only other way to get it, other than being at that summit, is to get it from Charles and I at a show. So I come from self-publishing. Charles has done self-publishing, and I think it's a lot of fun to do these little one-off things that are for the diehard fans and can be collector's items and things that people will really cherish. So yeah, I mean that's part of it. Right now, most of our energy has been the van tour, getting the word out, and actually doing the book. But as we go down the line, I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun convention exclusives and merchandise. And we had Curse Words sunglasses for New York Comic Con, which were pretty fun. So yeah, stuff like that we're gonna continue with.
What else did we do at New York Comic Con, Ryan? Didn't we do something else super cool?
We had a wizard party, which was pretty sweet. Well, it was for Wizard Magazine.
Also wizard, not wizard.
No, it was a wizard party that Charles masterminded for the Image Party in New York City. It was at Bowmore Lanes in Times Square. And a mysterious figure dressed as a wizard and his 2 wizard bandmates played a sweet wizard concert, wizard rock show. And it turned out that Charles was the front man of that wizard band. So yeah, and we had raffles and wizard trivia and stuff. So that was was really fun. That was a cool experience.
Well, what's the next con that the two of you will be there together?
I think Emerald City.
Emerald City, yeah, it's Emerald City, which is I think in March, right, Ryan?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so 2 issues will be out by then. We may actually have advanced copies of issue 3 for that show. I'll have to look at exactly what the date is, but we get our comp copies a week and a half before stores get there, so we might have debut issue 3 there. And then we're having a lot of bizarre covers for issue 1. For issue 1, I asked Image, I was like, what kind of bizarre printing can you do? Can you do like glow in the dark? Can you do embossed gold foil? I just really wanted to do some of that 90s printing, like a hologram or something. And the best thing that they came up with, which I didn't know existed, was UV glitter printing. And so we are doing a 1 in 50 curse words #1 variant that's printed with glitter. And features my cat Simon with a giant wizard beard. So we will see how that goes over. It's definitely one of the more bizarre, if not the most bizarre, covers to a comic that I've ever seen. So
is that the image? Is that the image of Simon that's on the website wizard.horse?
No, but it's very similar, actually. It's very similar.
So, and that's coming from the person who has the blast furnace cover that's covered with spot varnish mustaches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that UV coating, man. You can do so many good gags with it. Man, we do see this glitter. It's so like, it's like sandpaper. And like in your hand, it feels like you're holding sandpaper. It's really something special. It's magical.
Just like everything with curse words, right? It's magical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We need to get that glitter ink on the inside too.
Okay. For $45 comics, everybody would love
it. Yeah, that glitter ain't cheap.
So the publication date of issue #1 is going to be January 18th, and the last day to place your orders for this first issue is going to be December 19th. So when this episode goes up, that will be about a week and a half. So if you're listening to this right now, definitely make sure that if you haven't already pre-ordered, go out and pre-order your copy of Curse Words #1.
Can I talk about pre-orders for a second?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is a big part of the industry that a lot of people don't really understand. And so there are a lot of people that, are on board. They're gung-ho for curse words, and they're going to go to the store on January 18th, and they're going to buy issue 1, which is super awesome, and it definitely helps us. But what helps the book the most is pre-orders. And it's not like a great system for pre-ordering. You usually have to call your store or tell your store that you want it. But if the fans tell the stores that they want it, then that makes the stores pay more attention. And, the worst thing that can happen for the fans is they go on Wednesday and it's already sold out, which is definitely something we want to avoid. So a lot of how books sink or swim in the industry is based off of actually getting the stores to order copies. So it's a really important part, and this isn't just for curse words, but for any of the creator-owned books that you might read out there. Getting a subscription set up before the issue comes out, like putting it on your pull list, or even saying an issue 1's coming out, I'm interested in checking out just that issue 1. That helps the creators so much more doing it ahead of time than just buying it at the store on the day it comes out. I mean, both definitely help, and they're both great. But I feel like a lot of people don't really know how that system works, because obviously we print as many as we print based on how many pre-orders we get from stores. And a lot of people think that going back to press and getting second printings is good for a book, but it actually isn't. It just means that it was under-ordered. So that's always something you want to avoid, is going back to press. So the best way to do that is to pre-order. So yeah, that's it. It's interesting because there are a lot of people that don't know how that works. And I certainly, before I was making my own creator-owned comics, I never pre-ordered anything because it just never occurred to me that it really would matter because they were going to get it in anyways. But it helps your store make the appropriate risk, helps your store know how many to order because, the store is really putting its neck out there buying the book. And if it's a new thing that they don't know if it's going to have an audience or not, it's much safer for them to order the numbers accordingly if they know how many people are actually going to want to buy through the pre-orders. So that's it.
That's a really good point, though, because I think, especially a book gets a lot of publicity, will get a lot of publicity for like second printing, first issue sold out, second printing. And what you're explaining there is that there's problems with that. Yeah. That you want it would be better if that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, listen, a second printing is always good because it means that the first one is sold out and there's enough interest to justify, retailers want more and so they're going to order more. But the thing is, doing a second printing costs more than just if the original order had been larger. So, none of this is bad, wine, whatever. But I think the part that Ryan is trying to get across and did get across is that comics is, for better or for worse, I really do think of it sort of like an ecosystem. Like every piece is affecting every other piece. And generally speaking, the earlier you can tell your store, and I know not everybody reads books, buys books at their comic shop. Like comics are so interesting now because people are reading them digitally. There's so many other ways to get them. People wait for trades. They order off Amazon. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the way comics live or die is in these pre-orders, in relying on comic shops and relying on comic fans to say as early in the process as possible, I want this. Before it even comes out, I want this, I like it. And so it's bizarre. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It never really has. I think there are probably better ways to do it, but it's the system we've got, and so that's how it is. So if you've been listening to this podcast, this show, this experience, and you think that curse word sounds like something you would enjoy, you will enjoy it. I'm telling you right now, you will. then it's important for you to. If you called your store or found a store, like if you called any store, you don't even like. Let's say you live in. Hey Ryan, where's a place that doesn't have any stores?
The moon.
Okay, let's say you live on the moon, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to get this curse words book on Comixology because I live on the moon and there are no shops here. You could, if you wanted to, call up, say, Challengers Comics in Chicago, Midtown Comics in New York City, Acme Comics in North Carolina, Third Eye Comics in Annapolis. You could call up any of those stores and say, you know what? I want this book. That will influence their choices as far as ordering because they'll think if someone on the moon is motivated enough to call me and want this book, then it means other people are going to want it too. It means the word is getting out. This is going to be an interesting, hot book. So it's you have the power to make cool books happen much earlier than you think you do, and before they're on the shelves, especially before they're on the shelves. If you want books like curse words or other cool books you might think are interesting to survive, just call your shop and tell them you like it. And the nice thing is you don't even have to buy it later. You can just tell them you want it.
Yeah, well, they'll sell it no matter what, I'm sure, with this book. But that is, like, I think it's kind of amazing in comics that you can really affect change and support the books that you want to support through this pre-order system. Because, the industry is small enough that, you get enough people to voice that they want a book ahead of time. And that really has a chain effect. Let's say a store was going to order 5 of let's say curse words number 1. Let's say they're going to order 5 and they have 2 people come in and say, hey, can I pre-order this? And then they might say, hey, 2 people are interested in this. Maybe I'll get 10 instead. And then that means we print more. And then that means it sells out. It's harder for it to sell out. It's a very strange system. And, I'm not concerned at all really about curse words. But with God Hates Astronauts, which was a much more narrow audience book, I actually sold out of all 10 issues. Every issue of God Hates Astronauts sold out. And it only lasted for 10 issues because it didn't do great. So it just was, at the time, it was just a whole thing of, I had a dedicated fan base that really liked the book, but it's just buying it off the shelf was not enough. It's actually putting on that pull list so that the stores can order, accordingly.
Right. So one of the things our listeners should definitely do is pre-ordering somewhere through some shop or service, curse words #1. And I think you've done a great job of making that clear to people, because one of the things that Andy and I every episode talk about pre-ordering comics because of our sponsor, which is Discount Comic Book Service.
Sure.
But I don't know if we've ever really gone into any reasoning why people should pre-order.
Yeah, I mean it's and I'm not just saying this for curse words. I'm saying this for all the books that you feel passionate about. All the creators that you feel passionate about. Like let's say like Headlopper, Andrew McLean. That series is coming back with a new 4 issue thing eventually. I don't think it's available for pre-order yet. But if you really love Headlopper and you love what Andrew's doing, the best way to support him is when it's out there is to pre-order it. Because then he can keep making that comic, and then everyone wins.
Well, Ryan and Charles, we wish you the best of luck with curse words. We hope that this is around for at least 5 trades. Yeah. And that the sales of issue #1 are through the roof. And if they are, you can thank the Comics Alternative for that.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You'll be on the cover of every issue.
Yeah.
You have to send us nice photographs of you guys so that we can draw them into every cover.
Okay, then.
Will do.
Every cover.
It's a deal, and now it's on the recording.
Yes, that's legal. That's binding.
You're a lawyer, right? You can guarantee that.
I'm a lawyer. It's the best. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, guys.
That was fun. That was one of those interviews that I don't even know if we needed to be in the room. Those guys have such great chemistry together that they started the ball rolling on their own, and we just had to follow along.
Yeah, you're right. Now, if we took the time to transcribe and count the number of words that everyone speaks during the interview, I would bet you that this is the one interview we've done where you and I speak the least amount.
Yeah.
And this was interesting in that I wasn't aware that it would be such a fun and easy for us interview, because we've had both Ryan and Charles on the podcast before, but individually. This is the first time we had them together, and there's really a dynamic there. And if you like the dynamic of the two of them speaking with us, then you'll definitely love the dynamic on their collaborative work, Curse Words.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the things that I appreciated most about this interview is that it was a fun interview to do, and it really reflects the amount of fun and entertainment you can get out of that first issue of Curse Words.
Yeah, and as we mentioned at the top of the show, you and I have read advanced copies of issue #1. We strongly recommend it. So definitely go out ASAP and pre-order your copy of Curse Words #1. And we want to thank Charles and Ryan once again for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And if you want to find great books like the ones that Ryan and Charles do, then you would do well to head over to the website of our sponsor, Discount Comic Book Service. Discount is in their name, so you know you can find great prices there. That's dcbservice.com. You can't go wrong with those guys. And after you do get your comics there, be sure to get in touch with us and let us know what you thought about our interview with Charles and Ryan. If you go to the website, comicsalternative.com, you'll find that you can leave us a voice message via SpeakPipe. Or you can call us the old-fashioned way by picking up the phone and dialing 4153-COMICS. That's 415-326-6427.
That's right. Or you can get a hold of us by email. We are two guys at comicsalternative.com. You can also email us individually. I'm Andy at comicsalternative.com.
And I'm Derek at comicsalternative.com.
We also have our Twitter feed, which you can check out at the number 2 guys with PhDs.
That's right. But we're also on other places of social media, such as Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Google+, Goodreads, Pinterest, and YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find us on TuneIn, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and on Google Play Music. But you can find every single one of our podcast episodes, as well as the reviews and the comics-related commentary that we post on our blog, by going to the website, comicsalternative.com.
Yeah, check all those out for ways to get a hold of us and let us know how we're doing.
That's right. We like to interact with you, our listeners, and we'd like to hear if you had as much fun listening to our interview with Ryan and Charles as we did conducting it.
Yep.
And until next episode, I'm Derek.
And I'm Andy. See ya.